The date was Friday, April 5th, 2019. The spring air outside carried the promise of renewal. Yet, inside Regional 1 Health Medical Center in Tennessee, the promise of life had slipped away. Pastor Brodus Perry, only 36 years old, lay still as the monitors around him fell silent. The official words, pronounced dead, were spoken with the clinical detachment of medicine, but their weight was crushing. For those who knew him, the news was unthinkable. A man of the cloth, a voice of guidance and faith. His journey ended not in the sanctuary of his church, but in the sterile confines of a hospital room. The truth behind his death carried a darker shadow. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will discuss the fatal encounter of LaTosha Daniels and Pastor Brodus Perry. This video is divided into 4 parts: the summary, evidence, psychological dimensions, and the conclusion. I will begin with the summary. LaTosha Daniels' childhood was marked by shadows she never asked for. Raised by her mother and stepfather, she grew up in a home where love was often drowned out by violence. She remembers the nights when her stepfather's anger turned into blows and the helplessness of watching her mother suffer. Too young to carry such a burden, yet too brave to remain silent, LaTosha often stepped in, her small voice and trembling hands, trying to shield her mother from harm. Those moments carved resilience into her spirit, though they also left scars she would carry into adulthood. As she grew older, LaTosha longed for stability, for a family of her own that would be different from the one she had known. When she became pregnant at age 17, she married the father of her child, believing that love and commitment would give her the life she dreamed of. At first, it seemed to work. Together, they bought a house, built routines, and celebrated milestones. She supported him through the grueling days of police academy, proud when he graduated and put on his uniform. But the badge came with secrets. Soon after he began working, she discovered he was having an affair. The betrayal cut deep. While she was away at college, he packed her belongings into a U-Haul and delivered them to her mother's house, as if erasing her from the life they had built. Their marriage collapsed after 4 years, leaving LaTosha broken. In her darkest moment, she attempted to take her own life, convinced she had failed as a wife, a mother, and a woman. Yet, survival became her quiet rebellion, proof that even in despair she could endure. Years later, she remarried, hoping again for the warmth of partnership. This second marriage lasted 8 years, but instead of violence or betrayal, it was marked by silence. Her husband was emotionally distant, neglectful, and unreachable. LaTosha found herself living beside a man who felt more like a stranger than a partner. The absence of affection was its own kind of wound, leaving her lonely even within the walls of her own home. The pastor. For most of his adult life, Brodus Perry believed he understood the call of ministry, its discipline, its compassion, its quiet demands. Each sermon he delivered, each counseling session he held, was rooted in a desire to guide people back to steadiness when their lives fell apart. By 2018, he had risen to the post of executive pastor at Mississippi Boulevard's Christian Church, a role he had held for only 5 months before his untimely death. He and his wife, Tabitha Perry, had built a quiet life together. They had no children, but appeared to have a stable life. Yet, beneath the surface of Brodus' carefully ordered life lay a secret that would unwind everything he had built. The fatal encounter. In 2017, While serving as pastor of assimilation at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, Broaddus met Latosha Daniels. She was now a licensed social worker, specializing in anger management and running her own practice called the Root Behavioral Health. She was also a member of his church and still struggling with marital problems. Seeking counseling, she turned to him. By their second session, the professional boundary had collapsed. They began an affair. Latasha later claimed Broaddus told her he had an open marriage, though his wife would firmly deny this claim. For Latasha, the relationship filled the void left by her failing marriage. She divorced her husband and continued her involvement with Broaddus. She showered him with gifts such as gymwear, bourbon, cigars, even a suitcase. She also paid her own way on trips where they stayed in hotels together. Despite humiliating moments and emotional manipulation, she remained devoted to him, convinced that their bond was real. Once, after an encounter that left her feeling degraded, she confessed she wanted to end her pain. He talked her down, pulled her close, and convinced her to stay with him. Their connection simmered between longing and imbalance, and Latasha's emotional world began to orbit entirely around him. In late 2018, Broaddus and Tabitha relocated to Mississippi for his new pastoral role. Yet, the affair continued. He returned to Little Rock for a clandestine rendezvous with Latasha, a dangerous secret that would soon drift into his home like a shadow and place his wife into grave danger. I have now reached the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoy this content, kindly consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Protect your mental and emotional health. See you in the next.